Welcome everyone to the Builders Coach Show. I'm Kurt Egertwiler, the founder of Builders Coach and your host for today. So this show is all about us sharing insights, lessons, stories about the many builders that we speak to every week. And I'm with my co-host today, Jess. How are you doing, Jess?
I'm very good. How are you?
Fantastic. Exceptional.
Awesome. So let's kick off today. I know you've been really busy. There's been a lot of things happening. Tell me, what are the highlights?
Wow, I mean, where to start? So if we zoom out, this year so far, it's been crazy busy. We've had, 2 overseas trips heading to Europe again in a couple of weeks. We were in Vegas in February. That was fantastic, meeting our US clients and joint venture partners as well. But 2 weeks ago, we were here in beautiful Manly. We can see the venue from where I'm sitting. And we had an amazing event, our marquee event for the year. I think it went exceptionally well. We had 70 builders in the room. Keynote speaker, John McGrath, he was fantastic.
Yeah, that was definitely an awesome event. So what are your key highlights from maybe John's presentation specifically?
John, well, like so many, but if I had to sort of boil it down, the fascinating thing with John, he had a chat to me about 4 weeks before the event, and then again on the morning of the event. He was there before me. I turned up an hour before we kicked off, and being the professional he was there setting up. And he said to me, Kurt, who is going to be in the room? He wanted to know who he is going to be presenting to. Obviously, really important when you're a presenter. And I told him, hey, these guys are either existing or past clients of mine. So the caliber builder in the room is quite high. These guys have done business and leadership development. He wanted to re-emphasize that again just before he started. So just, what's the percentage of clients versus non-clients? And I said, look, mostly clients or past clients. I asked everyone in the room before we kicked off, who here has had some business coaching or done some leadership and business development, and every single hand went up. He then kicked off by saying, you're all operating at 10% of your ability. And I thought that was fascinating. I think he only said that because of the caliber person in the room. And if you look at psychologists, people like Jordan Peterson, they talk about how the upper end of human potential is untested. And that's true. Like, we only find out about what's possible when you get like the old lady lifting a car to free a grandkid, or the guy chewing his arm off to get itself out of a canyon or something. Our potential is so much more than we think it is. And it was fascinating because the other thing that struck me was his story about his decision to become the best in the world at what he does. And he asked the question, I asked that to anyone listening, could you be the best in the world at what you do? Right? That's profound when you think about it. Most people going into business, if you're in business, it's a big decision. It's a sweaty palms moment, just getting into that arena. And we probably all have family and friends who admire us for working for ourselves, and they'll never do it because I've heard the stats, right? Like 80% of business fail in the first 5 years, and the 20 that make it through, 80% and then fail the second 5. So getting into that arena, once you're there, you realize how chaotic and turbulent it can be. So when you're in there to decide that you're going to be the best in the world, that is significant, because in order to do that, you've got to see yourself as the best in the world, right? So most people don't have the titanium balls to do that. So he did, and then as a result of that, he went on to share how he would catch up once a quarter with other real estate agents, 9 other guys in Chicago in the US, where they would compare notes. And those guys also wanted to be the best in the world. So he was only in that room sharing stories and sharpening steel because he had made that decision. And the last word on this, the thing I find fascinating about it all is that I don't think he's the best in the world at what he does. In fact, we have guys in the room that don't even know who he is. They're like, who's this guy, John? But by virtue of making that decision, he was able to raise the bar and achieve some like significantly higher standards. And it's the whole concept of shoot for the stars, hit the moon.
I also really enjoyed his story about, customer service in that restaurant he went to in Chicago.
Yes, Charlie Trotter's.
Yeah.
There was the best restaurant in the world at the time when he was going over to Chicago to meet with those guys, and they brought it up, and he was like, hey, can we go? And they were like, well, you're going to have to book 6 months out. So he waited a couple of trips, and then they went in. And he spoke about how after that eating there, he got a phone call from the restaurant asking him, how did you find the experience? What were the people like, and the food? And it was fascinating because he asked us, when have you ever had a phone call from a restaurant you've eaten at to follow up and find and get your feedback, which is another one of his key points, was run towards the problems. Like qualified feedback, of course, but listen to your clients, your ABO clients, listen to that feedback, even though it may be uncomfortable, and it often is, and then look for improvements and keep tinkering. And then, business becomes an enjoyable experience.
So what would you say to anyone that has missed the event?
if you missed the event, the good news is we recorded it. So we filmed the whole event. There were other amazing speakers, marketing one of them from Amanda. We'll get into that a little later. But if you want to buy the recording of the event, it was called the Profits and Property Bootcamp. You can email info@builderscoach.com.au. So info@builderscoach.com.au. Just put Profits and Property Bootcamp in the headline, and we'll flick across the link, and you can purchase the whole recording for the day, including the workbooks and everything else. And you can enjoy it at your own time. Yeah.
I also want to talk about the boardroom. So I know you had that event just the day before that big key event. Tell us, what's the boardroom, and what are the highlights?
So boardroom was a closed door event for our private clients, our most successful clients, guys in the 7-figure club or aspiring 7-figure club members. And they spent a day together. We had 13 businesses sharing what's working, what's not. Mm-hmm. They wanted to get up and present and talk about their vision for the business. And then the other businesses served as non-executive directors for their business, giving feedback, asking the difficult questions. And it was phenomenal. At least 2 of the guys said it was the best combination of business people they'd ever been in a room with in their life. It was mind-blowing, yeah.
I think you mentioned something about books and apps. Do you want to talk us through that?
Yes. So one of the guys in the room, Ben, he was at the previous boardroom 12 months ago, and he said the thing that struck him was that 12 months ago, so guys were sharing information and ideas and books they'd read. 12 months ago, he got recommended 7 books. So he had 7 books listed and 1 app or piece of technology. And this time he had 1 book and 9 pieces of technology. Mm-hmm. So that was just a reflection of how quickly things are moving. And with that in mind, I heard that and I find this fascinating. And for some people, I think it's frightening. The next 10 years, we're going to have more innovation and change than the previous 100. So if you go back to 1924, it's like the Wright brothers, trying to get these planes off the ground. And we've come from that to putting people on the moon to, self-driving cars. So for us to have more change than that in the next 10 it blows the mind.
Yeah, quite crazy.
Yeah.
You touched on a little bit about marketing, and what I want to do is just do a little bit of a deep dive. So something that's you talk quite a bit about is finding and mastering your market. Can you tell us what does that mean and why is it so important?
Absolutely. So having a well-defined market ensures, and by the way, if you don't have one, if you don't have a niche or specialty and you're unsure how to go about it, look at the most profitable work. Chase the margin, then the revenue. I will say that. So probably the most profitable work out there and the most staple niche is renovations, extensions, remodeling. 99% of our builders are residential builders that do custom homes, architecture build, renovations, extensions. So decide on the niche for your area. So some of the listeners will be regional, some will be metro. Really look around you. Look at your previous jobs, 10, 15, how many jobs you can look at, and identify those that were most profitable, and then ask yourself, can you do more of that type of work? All right. So you want to identify that market first and foremost. That then makes you relevant to a group of people, the people that fit into that market. That gives you market penetration, and then all your marketing efforts, both online and offline, can communicate clearly and directly to that target market. Okay. So that's step 1. And then there's, all the different marketing channels and making sure that you test and measure the marketing as well. So we had a great presentation at our event by that Amanda Gates, and that was probably just behind John's in terms of its popularity and engagement. Yeah.
Awesome. And then still in that, on that topic, you talk about overbooking the flights.
Yes. That's something that actually came up in our boardroom as well. Like one of the guys there, his name's Tom, he was all in on that concept of overbooking the flight. And it's counterintuitive. Most guys listening may go, what are you talking about? Well, airlines do it. They overbook their flights because they know people are going to cancel. So there's never been a builder that I've spoken to that hasn't had a job fall over at the 11th hour. People lose their jobs, get sick, divorce, whatever it is. So the way to offset that and ensure that you optimize your workflow, the 3 Achilles heels, profit, cash flow, workflow, right? So the way to ensure that you always have smooth workflow is to overbook flight, have more jobs in the pipeline than you can deliver on, And the worst case scenario, what you got to do is tell people they're going to have to wait, 3 or 6 months.
Yeah.
And you had that uncomfortable conversation rather than a scenario where you guys listening would have all been in this situation where all of a sudden your workflow is going off a cliff. And that's not great. That's a 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling situation. So getting to book the flight. So back to this guy, Tom at Boardroom, he realized the need to do that. So he went heavy in his marketing, doing video marketing, had a marketing agency helping him. He thought he had done enough to overbook the flight. He had plenty come to the pipeline. It wasn't enough. Like he had jobs fall over and then he was a bit thin in his pipeline. So he had a second run at it. And this time he went all in to make sure that he did overbook the flight. And again, it wasn't enough. So he's gone in for a third time to make sure that he does that. And it's a conversation I have with every single one of my private clients. Like you really need to do 10 times more marketing than you think you do to get to a point where you say no to A-grade clients. Ideally, that's what you want to do. Well, firstly, identify your AAA grade blue chip clients. And then when you say no to someone because you booked out, and you won't just say, no, I can't work with you. You give them the option of either waiting, you referring them on to another builder who's award-winning and good quality, or they can go find someone else themselves. So you give them those options. But you need to get to that point. Then you've done the job.
Do you have any recommendations in terms of marketing?
In terms of marketing strategies, I would recommend getting a marketing strategist. But with our clients, we always start with the foundation marketing systems. So you need a website, right? Most guys, sadly, I don't just check the websites lately, but some of them no doubt had website shame. Looks like a 12-year-old kid did it, right? So you want to have a decent looking website that is up to speed with the latest platforms, the look and feel, social media, Meta, Insta, Facebook, and then something like Houzz has presence on Houzz, and then a brochure that we use as part of your sales process, and then you can also use to network with architects and designers. That's the number one marketing strategy, by the way, is networking with architects and designers. So we get those fundamentals in place: website, social media, a brochure that communicates point of difference. And then from there, there's, endless, not endless, but there's a lot of different marketing channels, both online and offline. So with site signage, banners, flyers, neighbor letter drops, development approval letters that you can send out, scraping addresses off council websites. And then there's, quality video and photo content. Mm-hmm. And then all the other online avenues like pay-per-click advertising, realestate.com as a product now with our aligning people with builders. But this all stems back to target market. What is your niche? What's your specialty? And then based on that, what are the best channels for you to reach the people that you want to most connect with? So there's three main areas. It's your market. Mm-hmm. In markets, three main areas: market, message, and medium. Okay, medium's like either online or offline. And if you tick those three boxes, you're going to have, the right message across the right medium to the right market.
You talk about markets. You talk also about marketing optimization. What is that about? What does it mean?
Okay, cool. I'm glad you asked. Actually, it's a really good question, because whenever I start with a new builder, a new client of ours, we set up a sales process first before we run with the marketing. And the reason for that is you don't want to turn on the marketing taps and have inquiries come through if you're not ready.
Yeah.
So the sales process is engineered to quickly build credibility and trust, and then to convert people onto a pre-em agreement, which is just design, engineering, surveying, whatever else, packaging that up, including a cost analysis, which is a quote. So that people either pay for a pre-em, and then the builder has relationships with different stakeholders that take them through that pre-em process. Or they've got all their documentation ready and they just pay for a quote or a cost analysis. So once people get to that point, that's game changer, right? A builder that wasn't charged with quotes, you're using pre-ems before, there's their business before they do that and afterwards. And if they're converting at 80 or 90%, I think that's amazing. It's transformative in terms of how it impacts their business and their personal life as well. But that is not marketing optimization. Marketing optimization is what we call a one-horse race. So you eliminate yourself from the tender process. So most builders that get out there, and they get involved in a tender process. People want 3 quotes, or the architect wants 3 quotes, and they get involved in that, and they do it for free. Right? The ideal scenario is, and I'll share a story to really illustrate this. We were doing a development workshop in Melbourne back in December last year, and there was a past client in the room, Katie and Adam. And on the morning tea break, Katie came up to me and she was lit up, and she said, "Hey, Kurt, we haven't done a competitive tender for 2.5 years." So they had a relationship with an architect who had fed them 8 jobs in a row, and they were charging for the quote or the cost analysis. And they weren't engaged in a tender process. They didn't have to compete against other builders. The interesting thing was, and people are probably thinking now, well, how do you replicate that outcome? Maybe that guy was a unicorn, that was a unique situation. What's the benefit for an architect and the client to get involved in a one builder tender process? I'm going to tell you now, the benefit's huge, right? So for an architect, the time it takes to go through that tender process, speak to 3 builders, go through all the meetings, the analysis of the numbers and everything else, he does not have to do that now. All he does is he sells his client on Adam, which is an easy sell, because he said, I've got a builder I've got a good relationship with. We worked on 8 jobs together. He understands him. He understands me. He's very good at getting the numbers right, which is very important in this environment. I heard the other day, inflation's up 40% in the US in under 4 years. I know that building costs have gone up 30% in under 3 years. So it's really, really important, Mr. and Mrs. Client, that we get these numbers watertight. Adam's amazing at doing that. And together, we can not only do that, but also make any changes on the job at the design phase, which would normally happen during the job, which lead to delays and cost blowouts and all that sort of thing. So hugely advantageous to the client from that perspective, but obviously from the architect, it's eliminating a massive inefficiency. So his business runs a lot smoother. He can increase the amount of jobs that he does, and he's going to make more money. So it's a benefit to the architect, to the client, obviously to the builder, massively, but to the industry as well, because there's more trust, because you've got better accuracy of the numbers. So it's a game changer. Obviously, the most dangerous thing in that scenario is the number one. The most dangerous number in business is 1. You don't just have one architect feeding your work, and Kate and Adam were aware of that, and they're setting up multiple relationships with other architects. But the other fascinating thing from the story is that there's a thing called the law of reciprocity. So when someone gives you something, you naturally feel compelled to return the favor and give them something back. That's because we herd animals, right? So we've got that innate desire to want to give back. So they naturally want to give this architect a job. And at the time I met them, they'd just given him or found an $8 million project with a client that didn't have an architect. And they were able to sign a premium and give that job to the architect, which just sealed the relationship right there. But like I said, they've got other architect relationships coming up as well. So that is marketing optimization. And again, it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah. Okay, so another concept that I think we should talk about is the halo effect. Do you want to talk us through that?
Yeah, halo effect, yeah. So this is something that came up in conversation with a builder earlier this week. We were talking about the sales process. And the thing that happens prior to the sales process is obviously marketing. Marketing is selling in advance. So if you use intelligent education-based sales and marketing, which is sending out a consistent pulse of quality photo and video content, helping people understand what's involved in doing a renovation, an extension, a first floor addition, or whatever it is. There's a lot that you can talk about and share, which unpacks the complexity and then demonstrates your expertise and builds credibility and trust in your marketplace. Okay? So ideally that happens before people get to you. But if you don't have that in place, it's okay. You could have the sales process does a lot of the heavy lifting. It genuinely elevates credibility and trust very quickly. So as people go through that process, and by the way, it starts with a questionnaire. So an inquiry comes in by phone or email, the questionnaire gets sent out, and the prospect is instructed to complete that as best they can with as much information as possible. And then there's an audition call. So the builder contacts the prospect and goes through the scope of works and the specifics of what they want to achieve with the project, but also qualifying them, making sure that they're a good fit for who they are. And if that goes well, they send out a frequently asked questions PDF, a hard copy brochure in the mail, which arrives the next day. There's an agenda they send out the day before the site visit, and a text an hour before they leave, and then they turn up on time, presentable, with a solution in place. Now, there's another step that happens prior to the audition call, 4 people who are early on in the piece and want a ballpark figure on their project. So no doubt people listening will have that happen when someone approaches and goes, hey, can you just give me a ballpark figure? How much do you think this is going to cost? And there's a product called ProCal, which guys are using, which is a 20-minute, sometimes 15-minute turnaround, and it gives them a report with a low, middle, and high figure on what the project's going to cost, and it's within a 91% percentile accuracy. So it's brilliant in terms of giving those people a number quickly. The guys charge for that as well. And then when that gets sent to the prospective client, there's a percentage that go, oh my gosh, it's way beyond our budget, so they go away. So that saves the builder firm to drive out and see that prospect. But there's another percentage that go, this is in line with what we thought, and then they proceed. So if you throw that into the mix of that sales process I just described, by the time the builder gets to the site, there's people there who sort of put a cage over it. They're like, the other builders we call haven't even got back to us. You've sent a questionnaire, done an audition call, got ProCal numbers, an FAQ, a brochure, and a agenda. So they're just overwhelmed with the level of professionalism, how process-driven the builder is, and they want to lock them in. We've had builders, give us feedback where clients are saying, what do we need to do to secure your services? How can we give you some money? We just want to lock you in. Mm-hmm. So what happens is, by demonstrating that level of proactive communication, the process, and it is education-based, because you send in information that is very well put together, that educates the prospect on what's involved in getting an accurate quote, what's going to be involved in the build process, and also extracting the scope of works and really understanding what their needs are and their emotional hot buttons. By the time the builder gets there, the halo effect sort of kicks in, because this guy's done so many good things. People now think to themselves, if he's this good pre-construction, how good is going to be during the build? Yeah. Okay, so that halo effect is, like celebrities, the good-looking people. If they do one thing really well, people assume they do lots of things well. So that's the power of followers process. People may think it's manipulation, but really it's just demonstrating high standards, and consistently high standards. Just like John McGraw spoke about is, set the bar high and then consistently keep it there. Just consistent efforts, or not only keeping it there, but trying to ratchet it up, keep tinkering with how to make things better.
Amazing.
I've got an interesting story I want to share as well on a side note.
Okay.
I was having a conversation with a couple, a new client that we onboarded on Monday, and the guy was interested and very keen to get some business coaching and help, but he was still sort of unsure about committing. And his wife said to him, and this was like the thing that just pushed him over the line. She said to him, hey, you've got this far, feeling your way in the dark. Imagine if you turned the lights on. It helps up, booyah. Because he had achieved relative success on his own. But now imagine having access to best practice processes and someone working closely with him who's going to be able to see the insights into all the things he's doing that he could be doing better, plus all the things he's not doing that he could be doing, and then also understanding the sequence of implementation of those systems. And then beyond that, understanding where the blocks are in his head as a leader, because we all have them, right? There's things that you hold yourself back on, whether it's money or marketing, things you should do, but you don't. So having a coach there to guide you, point those things out is invaluable.
I know that. Which actually brings me to another question that I have for you. So if there's anyone out there thinking, well, I'm not really sure if I'm the right candidate to be coach or to start coaching, what would you say to them?
Great question. Yeah, actually, that someone asked me just after that call, like, how many people don't get a result when they work with you, or have there been people that haven't got a result? And my response was, sometimes that happens, but it only happens because they didn't take action and implement. So it's all about implementation, and ideally speed of implementation means you get results quicker. So it's absolutely crucial that you do that. And I spoke to a guy, I get a good read of people now, right? When I'm in a sales call or having a conversation with someone, in the same way that they're going to suss me out, because there's lots of amazing coaches out there. People can choose from a range of different coaches. Mm-hmm. And I also sussing them out to see, is this person going to be someone who actually gets shit done or doesn't? So I was speaking to this guy and he got talking about his morning routine. He said, I get up at 4 a.m, I'm in the gym, I'm on a bike for an hour and a half, then I go for an ocean swim. And I was like, bang, this guy's he's going to get stuff done. So that's the sort of mindset. Now, people that have habits in place, especially around health and fitness and mindset, and they do difficult things every day. They get out of their comfort zone because they know that's good for them. Like this guy was saying that him going to, getting on the bike and go for that morning swim was more for him mentally than physically, but he looked fit and healthy. And, he's towards the back end of his career and he's got 2 sons that work in the business and, set up succession. But that guy, I know, we're only going to start working together next week. I know he's going to be successful.
Thanks for all those valuable insights. I think that was really good. Maybe just a reminder, any of you guys are interested in the video recording from John McGrath's presentation, but all the other presentation on your marquee event, they can email us at info@builderscoach.com.au. And I think, aren't you offering a few people a free video?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for reminding me, actually. Okay, guys. So the first 5 people to email John McGrath in the headline, I'm going to send you a free copy of his presentation. And in fact, the whole day, why not the whole day? All the presentations, an amazing marketing presentation where 2 clients at the front of the room talking about what they've done from a development perspective, including buying property, commercial property with their through their superannuation. There was an accountant going through amazing stuff, how to structure things once you're making a profit, how to structure to set up a development arm, which is another very important component of optimizing your workflow. So first 5 people, info@builderscoach.com.au, just put John McGrath in the headline. That's all you need to do, and we'll get that across to you.
Awesome, great. And so also don't forget to subscribe, like, comment. And in the next episode, I'm going to do a bit of a Q&A. So if any of you guys have a question you want to ask Kurt directly, we'll be taking questions. Please send them to us. Just put a podcast in the headline, info@builderscoach.com.au again. Kurt, before we wrap this up, what are the upcoming events?
Plenty coming up next week, Friday, 28th of June, Brisbane. We've got a 1-day development workshop. We've still got a few seats left for that. So make sure you get in touch again. Just email info@builderscoach.com.au, development workshop info. We can send the registration link and all the information across to you. Otherwise, we're going to be in Adelaide on the 26th of July, Perth on the 20th of September, and plenty of other things that we're cooking up in the meantime. So any questions, guys, send them through. Otherwise, thank you, Jess, for your time. And for those of you that joined us, make sure you subscribe so you can stay up to date with any future videos that we send out. Annihilate that like button as well. Have a fantastic week. See you soon.
Thank you.